Hey everyone, Chris here, and if you are a game designer for Dungeons & Dragons, just when I thought the chance had passed, you go and save the best for last, because the Transmuter Wizard rocks. And I didn't love the Transmuter in the last one, or the Transmuter in the 2014 Player's Handbook, and I did not expect to love this either. And then I read it, and I was just blown away, especially when it was the last subclass in this document. And I had gone through the rest of the document, and there were bright spots. There was stuff I liked in the other parts of the document, but nothing that really grabbed me. And then this one just came out of nowhere and grabbed me. We're going to go over the features, and I'm going to gush a bit, and I'm going to let you know why I like it so much. So we're going to start with Transmutation Savant at level 3, and enough said. Okay? We know how that works. Now we go to Transmuter Stone. So we're going to follow two paths down this subclass. We're going to have the Transmuter Stone and Shape Changing. And we're going to go back to them as we go up in level. So we're going to start with Transmuter Stone. It says it's created after a long rest. Each time you take a long rest, you can change your Transmuter Stone if you like. It is a spellcasting focus for you. While you're in possession of the stone, you get Constitution saving throw proficiency, and then you're going to make a choice. And you can choose between Dark Vision, Speed, and Resistance. So if you choose Dark Vision, you get Dark Vision of 60 feet. If you already have Dark Vision, you get 60 more feet of Dark Vision. If you choose Speed, your speed is increased by 10 feet. And if you choose Resistance, you're going to choose one resistance from Acid, Cold, Fire, Lightning, Poison, or Thunder. If you want to change your selection, you can do so very quickly. All you have to do is cast a transmutation spell using a spell slot, and then you can change your choice. Anyone who is in possession of the stone gains the benefits. So I think the default would be you would keep it for yourself. After all, it is a spellcasting focus for you as well. However, if the guy next to you needs Constitution saving throw proficiency all of a sudden, you can hand them the stone. There's no attunement required. Boom. They've got Constitution saving throw proficiency plus whatever benefit you had on there. So in the previous Unearthed Arcana, they did have Transmuter Stone, except the one difference was that the Constitution saving throw proficiency was one of the choices. So you chose either Constitution saving throw proficiency, Dark Vision, Speed, or Resistance. And what that did was it made it no choice at all, because Constitution saving throw proficiency is better than a speed increase of 10 feet. I'm never going to select the speed increase of 10 feet when I could choose Constitution saving throw proficiency. So I would always have Constitution saving throw proficiency. And should mention the 2014 version of the Transmuter also had Transmuter Stone, and Constitution saving throw proficiency was also one of the options, and it was the option you chose. It was always the option you chose. Like I said, it's not really a choice. And I've talked about this over and over and over again. When you make a selection like this, and you make one of the selections so much superior to the others, what you have done is you've reduced the amount of options. So now we actually have 3 options. Now they've made this more powerful as well, because you're going to get Constitution saving throw proficiency and one other option. But what it does that is better than making it more powerful is they have made it so it is going to work the way it's written. Because when you read a feature like this, what you imagine is you've got this stone, it's going to give you a benefit, and you can cast your transmutation spells, and it will change the benefit, and that's cool. But you never, ever would do that if one of the options is just so much better that you would never want to give it up. So here, we're now finally, after 11 years, seeing a version of this feature where it would actually work the way it's presented, where you might, have your Dark Vision, and then suddenly you realize it's a black dragon. I need acid resistance. Transmutation spell, acid resistance. Great. That suddenly I'm excited about the freaking Transmuter Stone. Never been excited about it before. I've always appreciated the Constitution saving throw proficiency because that's very good. But it was never something that was fun. It looks like it'll be fun now. But that is not the only thing we're going to get at level 3. We're also going to get Wondrous Alteration. And this says you always have the Alter Self spell prepared, which I'm not a fan of. Not a fan of the Alter Self spell. I'm just going to say that what it does is it is 1 hour using your concentration. It's a second level spell. And you choose one of 3 options. You can either have a swim speed and breathe water. You can disguise yourself, or you can grow a natural weapon that you can attack with. And the best use of it, I find, would generally be the disguising thing, except Disguise Self is a first level spell, and I can cast Disguise Self and not have to concentrate on it. So why would I cast a second level spell that I do have to concentrate on to do the same thing? So yeah, not a fan of Alter Self, though it is a little bit versatile because, the aquatic adaptation might be handy some of the time, but I will never use the natural weapons. It's so bad. But anyway, we're going to have the Alter Self spell prepared, and we can cast it once without a spell slot per long rest. And if whatever we choose, aquatic adaptation, change appearance, or natural weapons, it's a little bit better than it otherwise would be. So if we chose aquatic adaptation, it allows us to dash as a bonus action if we're underwater. If we choose change appearance, we get advantage on charisma deception checks. And if we choose natural weapons, we now do 2d6 instead of 1d6, and we have advantage on constitution saving throws to maintain our concentration. These aren't huge advantages, and I'm still not going to ever use natural weapons. But, you know what? I could see using it some of the time. I'm not going to have water breathing until I get to 5th level. So aquatic adaptation can help there. And even after I have water breathing, I will not have a swim speed. So aquatic adaptation can help there as well. And if I have change appearance and I can cast Alter Self without a spell slot, then maybe I don't need Disguise Self. And I don't need to prepare Disguise Self. So that's nice too. Natural weapons I still don't really see using. Even 2d6 is not enough to make me want to use it. Now, the previous Unearthed Arcana didn't give you Alter Self. It gave you Enhance Ability. And you could cast it for free once per long rest. And it gave advantage to the associated saving throw. And I like Enhance Ability more than I like Alter Self. So originally, I read this and I thought, bit of a downgrade here. But there is a theme. There are 2 themes to this subclass. Transmuter Stone, changing shape. And Wondrous Alteration is going to fit in with the changing shape theme. So it is going to tie the subclass together thematically. And so when I first read this, I thought, but as I finished reading the subclass, I'm like, that's why they did Alter Self. Okay, I get it now. It now works. Okay. Onward to level 6, we're going to look at Empowered Transmutation. It says when you cast a transmutation spell that doesn't deal damage, you can treat the spell as being cast with the spell slot 1 level higher, intelligence modifier times per long rest. The previous Unearthed Arcana had a very similar feature at level 6, except it only worked on transmutation spells that targeted an additional creature when you upcast them. Though there were quite a few spells that applied to. Because transmutation spells available to wizards that target an additional creature when you upcast them include Jump, Long Strider, Blindness Deafness, Enhance Ability, Spider Climb, Fly, Gaseous Form, and Elemental Bane. So there were a good list of spells you could use it on. And I should mention as well that the 2014 Transmuter, this is when they got Transmuter Stone for the first time. So they got their Constitution saving throw proficiency at level 6. So now we can also use this on transmutation spells that don't necessarily target an additional creature when we upcast them, just not on any spells that do damage. And that includes a few spells. We got Magic Weapon, Flame Arrows, Tiny Servant, and Animate Objects. And yeah, that's not a bad list. It's smaller than the original list, but it's still a significant increase in spells. And I think this is fine. I thought actually the previous Unearthed Arcana version was fine as well. And I do appreciate that we're able to do something that now Twin Spell can't do. So that's nice. Also, I should also mention that if a spell doesn't have mechanics for casting it with a higher level spell slot, you could still use this if you wanted to make it a little bit harder to dispel. Because if you cast, say, a 3rd level spell, and then, you use this so that it's treated as a 4th level spell, even if there's no mechanical change to what happens with the spell, if somebody casts Dispel Magic, it's not automatically dispelled anymore. All right? So I don't know if I'd be doing that very often, considering this is limited use. But I just wanted to mention that it does work that way. And I just want, if designers are watching, I do want to just let you know on it, just a tiny little technical thing. But you say here, when you cast a transmutation spell that doesn't deal damage such as fly or magical weapon, there is no magical weapon spell. It's called magic weapon. So you would want to change that. But I'm happy with the feature. And then we're going to go to level 10. And at level 10, once again, we're going to see the same theme come up. So Transmuter Stone and Shape Changing. And so we're going to start with the Transmuter Stone and Potent Stone. So that's our level 10 feature there, Potent Stone. And it says that when we choose our benefit for Transmuter Stone, we can choose 2 benefits instead of 1. And we're going to have 2 additional benefits we can choose from. We have Mighty Build, which gives advantage on strength saves, and you count as 1 size larger in determining carrying capacity. And Tremor Sense, which gives you Tremor Sense 30 feet, always on. Take that, dwarves who have a limitation on their use of Tremor Sense. Transmuter has it all the time. Now, with the previous Unearthed Arcana, it worked the same as it did here, except there were no new options. So there was no Mighty Build or Tremor Sense. And I just need to remind you that Constitution Saving Throw Proficiency was one of the options at level 3. And this feature didn't feel that good to me in the previous Unearthed Arcana, and then it felt better to me here. And I had to think about why. Why does this feel better to me? Because, we're still just getting 1 additional benefit that we would have gotten before. We're getting 2 additional options, but they're not, fantastic options. So why does this feel so much better to me? And then I realized what it was. It was because at level 3, Transmuter Stone wasn't a selection. You were picking Constitution Saving Throw Proficiency because it was by far the best option. And now we're getting our second best option, and it just felt like, oh, now I get the runner-up. Great. But here, I was already getting the Constitution Saving Throw Proficiency and making a selection, and now I'm making 2 selections from relatively balanced options. And that just feels better to me than runner-up option. Even though mechanically I'm not sure it's that much better, and I don't think Mighty Build or Tremor Sense are all that much mechanically stronger than the initial options, though it's nice to have 5 options instead of 3. But yeah, it felt better to me, for sure. And I think it's just that when you start on the right foot, when you improve that ability, it still feels better. You're still benefiting from the fact that the initial feature was made in a better, more fun way. Okay, and then we get our second feature at level 10. Now, the other Unearthed Arcana didn't have a second feature at level 10, and the 2014 rules only have 1 feature at level 10 as well, which I assume this is based on, because in the 2014 rules, you got Polymorph as a spell in your spellbook. You still had to prepare it, so you still had to use one of your preparations to prepare it, but you could cast it without a spell slot once per short or long rest, but when you did so, you could only cast it on yourself, and you couldn't pick a creature over challenge rating 1. And the Polymorph spell says that basically you throw out your stat block and you become the creature stat block. At least in 2014 it did. Now you actually keep like your hit dice and hit points and stuff. But back then you didn't. You just took that stat block. So, even if you wanted to use this for utility, so you're going to turn into a bird, well, then you are a literal bird brain. So you're not going to be a very good, scout or whatever it is you're wanting to do. You're going to come back and report and maybe not even remember what you saw. It was potentially occasional utility and very limited, much worse than Wild Shape. And so it was not a good feature. Now we have Shape Changer, which is really reimagined. And this feature is unlike anything I have seen in any subclass in the game. And that's fantastic. So it says you have Polymorph prepared. You can cast it once without a spell slot per long rest. If you target yourself, you can give yourself 2 benefits. So you don't have to use your free casting on yourself, but if you cast Polymorph on yourself, you get 2 benefits, but you can only do this once per long rest. But you can give yourself game statistics. You retain your personality, your memories, your ability to speak, your intelligence, your wisdom, your charisma, your class features, your languages, and your feats. So this is like Wild Shape, except nothing about not being able to cast spells. Wow. All right. And then it says transmute spells. And it says you can cast transmutation spells while shape-shifted, except for any spell with a material component with a cost or is consumed. And now, before I get into that, I should mention that the previous Unearthed Arcana did not have a second 10th level feature. So this is just an add-on. We obviously need clarification here because the game statistics feature says I get my class features, which includes spell casting, and then transmute spells says I can cast transmutation spells. I thought I already could cast transmutation spells. Now, it's possible, there's 2 possibilities I think were the intention, and I'm not sure which one it is, so it needs clarification. The first possibility is the intention is that casting spells will be dependent on your ability to do somatic components, right? Like if I have hands because I'm a giant ape, then I could potentially do somatic components. But what if I have little claws because I'm a T-Rex? Can I still do somatic components? Maybe not, right? I should be able to do verbal components because you've said I can speak. But yeah, maybe I can't do somatic components. Maybe I can't hold an arcane focus, right? So I can't do a material component either. So then it might be a case where, I turn into a T-Rex and there's certain spells I won't be able to meet the component requirements for, even though I could technically cast spells. But if I cast a spell with just a verbal component, I might be fine. Well, if I become something like a great ape, well, then I can do somatic components. I could probably even hold a material component. And so then maybe then I can cast any spell as a great ape, but only transmutation spells as a T-Rex. That's one possibility. The other possibility is they intended to say under game statistics that you couldn't cast spells. And then transmute spells gives an exception to that rule. So maybe in any form, the only spells you could cast is transmutation. Could be either of those. And I don't know which one they intended. As it's written here, my first interpretation would fit the wording here better, I think. But I think it needs to be clarified. And I should also mention that although you can definitely cast at least some spells, you will not be casting any spells that require concentration if you want to maintain your polymorph, because your polymorph is going to require your concentration. Also going to point out that your transmuter stone would still give you benefits. So if you hold your transmuter stone as a great ape, you have the +4 constitution of the great ape, and you'd get proficiency in the constitution saving throw. And if you have Warcaster, you get advantage on your concentration saving throws. So maintaining the polymorph would be a lot easier. I should, though, mention you would have the proficiency bonus of the great ape, which is 3. Same with the T-Rex, 3. That's the best you're ever going to get with a polymorph spell. Now, the one downside here has nothing to do with this feature. It simply has to do with the way stat blocks work. And we just don't have a lot of beast options above challenge rating 1. And encountering this as I go over druid subclasses, that, wow, when you get into Moon Druid and you get past challenge rating 1, it's barren. And that is going to be the case here. What we're going to see is we're going to see a whole lot of great apes and a whole lot of T-Rexes, because those are the 2 good options. Now, you can reskin them. So, you want it to be a giant badger. You could be a giant badger and then just use, the great ape statistics. And instead of the badger claws, they're your great ape fists. But the statistics are still the same. You're just using the 2 same stat blocks over and over and over. And boy, it would be nice if there were more options for those higher challenge rating beasts, so that we could do more than two things. I mean, there will be occasionally times you might want to use Shape Changer because you just want to swim somewhere or fly somewhere or sneak somewhere. But there are spells that are going to cover most of that stuff that is cheaper than Polymorph. So I don't see that happening very often. Once in a while, maybe. But 99% of the time, I think we're just going to see the same stat blocks over and over and over again. But I love the feature. And I love the fact that we're really seeing that theme of these two pillars of this subclass improving as we increase in level. And we finish up with Master Transmuter. And what it says is you can destroy your Transmuter Stone as a magic action, and you get one of these magical effects that happen. If you don't want your Transmuter Stone to be destroyed, you can expend a 5th or higher level spell slot, and then it won't be destroyed, and you can still do these things. But you must be in possession of the stone in order to do them. So if you were handing out your stone beforehand, you might want to stop at level 14. And so these are our options. The first one is Major Transformation. It says you can transmute one object into another object. The original object can be up to a 10-foot cube in size or 8 connected 5-foot cubes in size. And neither of the objects can be magical, but the new form must be of equal or lesser value than the original. And this takes 10 minutes to do. Then we have Panacea. It says you take a magic action to touch a creature, and it regains hit points up to half of its maximum. It's cured of any magical contagions. Its curses are removed. And if it's poisoned or petrified, those conditions end. And then up here, we have Restore Life. And it says you cast Raise Dead, and the stone is the material component for the spell. Now, what this doesn't say is whether the Raise Dead spell is part of the magic action that you do to use Master Transmuter. Well, it does say that with Panacea, right? It says as part of the magic action, and it doesn't say that here, which makes me think that you are using the entire casting time of Raise Dead, which is an hour. I think they should probably say that, though, because with these kinds of things, you're always going to get the players who think that they're going to be now casting Raise Dead as a magic action. So if that's the intention, then say so. Say as part of the magic action to use Master Transmuter. And if it's not the intention, say with its normal casting time. Just to clarify to players, this is one case where you need to put a few extra words just to make it clear what you intend it to do or how it's intended to work. And finally, we have Restore Youth. And as part of the magic action to do Master Transmuter, exhaustion levels are all removed, and that is unusual, right? Like Greater Restoration reduces 1 exhaustion level. The Restore Youth reduces all your exhaustion. You could be at exhaustion 5. You're down to exhaustion 0. And you appear 3d10 years younger to a maximum of young adulthood. Now, the previous Unearthed Arcana had Master Transmuter, but they didn't have the Major Transformation option. It wasn't an option. And all the other 3 options were worse. They just did less. For example, Restore Youth on the previous Unearthed Arcana reduced your appearance and age, but it didn't do anything else. And now we're removing all levels of exhaustion. I mean, that's a dramatic difference. So this is a much stronger feature than the previous Unearthed Arcana. In the 2014 rules, it had these 4 options. And they had different mechanics, and so in some ways it was better, in some ways it was worse. So, a bit of this, bit of that. It's relatively comparable to the original level 14 feature. And that's the final feature we get. And so what we have is a subclass that has a strong theme. The theme is Transmuter Stone, Shape Changer. So 2 themes, and it really goes down those themes. And we have at least 1 feature on the subclass that is unlike anything else we've ever seen. Designers, more of this. More subclasses that follow a theme and more subclasses where at least one feature on that subclass is unlike anything else we have ever seen before. It just is so much more exciting to see that. It gets you excited to play these subclasses. More of this, please. And with that, I am going to sit back, relax, and have some fun. D&D is for everyone. Thanks, everybody. Talk to you soon.